All right, we're going to start with the first question again. Again, the rules are you have 30 seconds to pose a question. You can pose it to all of the candidates. They have a minute to answer, or you can choose one candidate in particular to direct the question to. That would give them 3 minutes. If you choose to have a follow-up, reply to it, you're welcome to do that. We're going to start with the first question. Please state your name.
Christopher Diebold, I live in District 5. I want to formally thank the Cecil County Patriots for holding this forum. I think it's wonderful, and I would like to thank the panel for coming this evening, for taking your time. I would like to ask each of you, let me create a scenario. You're on a vacation out of the area, let's say regionally or maybe another time zone, and you meet somebody one evening and just striking up a conversation with them, and let's say they're unemployed and they're thinking about moving to another area of the country. How would you describe Cecil County to them, both today and, more importantly, Cecil County's future?
Let's start with Jim Mullen on this one. Take that question and go to your right first. Thank you, Jim.
Okay, if we're on vacation and I strike up a conversation with somebody and they're looking to relocate, I'll probably ask them what their background is, so what type of skills they possess. So let's look at the active working landscape Cecil County has. We'll start with that. It's got an active working landscape of farms, forests, and fisheries. So they could either go into the agriculture segment of the county. We've got a viable agriculture business here in this county. We've got a viable horse industry in this county. We've got niche farming. We've got anything that deals with small farms with regard to horticulturalists that's active, because given the amount of small farms that are in the north, you don't need large tracts to do grain farming or beans. If you still want to work on the water, in the southern part of the county, we've got plenty of watermen down there that crab, perch, eel. So if you have that type of background, you want to get up early and get out on the bay and harvest seafood, still have that. We have forestry. If you're a small business and you want to come here and locate, we have plenty of small business in this county. I mean, I'm just shocked at the amount of small business that we have, with the opportunity to grow your small business. A lot of niche small businesses here that are nice. I mean, just look at the table here. Some of the individuals up there are self-employed or have a small business or work in a small business. Then we have the larger companies like Gore. We have Termo. Yes, sir?
You're closing in on your minute and 82 seconds. Thanks, Jim.
But did I cover it, or?
Sure. You covered the present very well.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, as Jim said, if I were to meet someone on vacation, of course it would depend on their background, what they currently do, and also what they want to do. Also how old they are, and kind of feel out what their plans are for the future. You know, as Jim said, there are lots of agricultural opportunities here. Boating and working on the water as well, and we do have industries, you know, that you could apply for a job working on the plant floor all the way up to management. I would also encourage professionals here who can maybe work out of their homes. We do have, reasonably good internet service here. That's what I do. I work out of the home when I'm not back in the office in Michigan. So I would definitely encourage that. We're reasonably close to Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. And traffic here compared to, say, Hartford County, Baltimore County, is pretty reasonable. For the future, I would hope to tell them that we're well on our way to implementing the comprehensive plan, and that this is a great place to live. Thank you.
When I vacation, I have 2 small grandchildren, step-grandchildren, and that's how I usually meet people and talk to them, is through these children. And I would ask him, first thing I would say is, you know, what are the ages of your children? Because we have very good schools in Cecil County. You would just, you know, and Cecil County School of Technology is an excellent school, depending upon the age group of their children, where they can come and learn a trade. We're the best kept hidden secret in Cecil County. And a lot of the people I know, like with the last time I run in this election, it was in 2008 with the forecast of crack. And they were coming down from Fort Mound in New Jersey. Well, when they come here, they found that they didn't have the shopping centers that they had, but they were attracted more to the Hartford County and Baltimore area. I personally like living where I am. I live in a rural area and open prime farmland. I've had several Amish families that live around me. Depending upon what their interests are, they could start a small business here, and as Jim Mullins said, with the Sassafras River and the Bohemia River for the fishing, the crabbing, and we have a lot of empty buildings in Cecil County where I feel that if they wanted to open a small business, they certainly could. We would have a lot of potential. And I think we could attract a business person into this community, into this county.
Thank you, Pamela. Robert?
I would encourage people to live here for all of the high quality of life reasons that most people want to live anywhere. We have relatively low crime. We have a rural character, but yet we're close to shopping and cultural centers in Philadelphia and Baltimore. And yet we're far enough away not to have those big city problems. We also have a great education system here in Cecil County, both from the public schools and Cecil College. And for the open space, the parkland, we have over 10,000 acres of parkland. We have all kinds of things to do here in Cecil County. It's amazing how many tourists come here to visit, because this is a great place to live, and I would encourage anyone that wants the high quality of life to come here and stay.
One word: awesome. That's all I would tell them. But no. In all seriousness, though, I don't know what else I could say that hasn't already been said, other than if an import like me can make it here in the county.
Demographics. I'd say our demographics are some of the greatest anywhere in the state of Maryland and even Newcastle County, because they build on every square inch of ground they have up there. As everyone has said, we have all the characters of a great place to live. You live in this immediate area of Cecil County. You know, you're 2 hours from New York, you're an hour from Philadelphia, you're an hour from Baltimore, 2 hours from Washington, D.C., but maybe you want to stay away from there. Anyhow, you know, I guess though, if you put it into the perspective of the question, if I were traveling tonight and I was having dinner at Cracker Barrel next to a couple, and I always do strike up conversations because, as I said, I like to talk, I'm sorry. You know, I would say, you know what? I said, if you're looking to come to Cecil County, I know where you can get a job. And I'm not fibbing to you. I will not name the business, but I know as of Monday I met with a customer of mine, and they're looking for a manager for their business here in Elton. Now, where can you go around and say that somebody's looking for a job or somebody's looking to employ, and it's a management position? And I would talk about the future of Cecil County. What we're going to do to, you know, we're going to bring people into this county. The first we're going to do is we're going to take the existing businesses and see what they need to be made whole. We're going to talk to the businesses, the Gores, the Thicals. Thicals should be employing a lot more people. Gores should be employing more people. The big companies may need help with manufacturers. How can we as your government help you? I know the last thing we want to do is not regulate you. And what do we got to do? We've got to speed up the process of how people do business in this county. It can't take forever. You can't get them on the tax rolls quick enough. You can't get the jobs created. That's what I would do, and that's what I tell them.
Thank you, Jim. All right, we have our next question. I want you to state your name and speak with boldness.
Donna Caldell, and I guess I don't need everybody to answer this question if you're not familiar. Is anybody not familiar with the new ordinance that was passed in reference to the methadone clinic? Okay, so you're not, okay, so you don't need...
I am not familiar with the new ordinance that was passed.
Okay.
It's not necessary that
That's
you
fine.
answer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. And yeah, what I'd like to know is for the rest of you that do know about it, what is your position on the new ordinance that was passed, and do you believe that it could hurt other medical facilities that people do want in their community? Thank you.
I clearly believe that the methadone ordinance that we passed, the county commissioners passed, is a bad ordinance. There's no doubt in my mind that it's a bad ordinance from many different directions. It was way overbroad in terms of impacting all types of medical services, including dentists and all primary doctors. I mean, you name any and every medical clinic or service that could be provided that would benefit the citizens of Cecil County is influenced by this ordinance. We had the opportunity to get stakeholders together. We had the opportunity to have them beat this problem around and come up with a viable solution that would not get the county into a lawsuit and would solve the problem of potentially restricting drug treatment centers in areas that we didn't think that they should belong. But we rushed an ordinance through to try to prevent a particular site from opening its doors. And I feel that that's not the way to do business. That horse got out of the barn. We screwed up because we didn't have a good ordinance in place. And I'm a firm believer when we have a problem that we get the stakeholders together, we ask them their ideas and have them come up with a viable solution that will generate the solution that will not get the county into trouble where the taxpayers are going to have to foot the bill for a lawsuit.
Thank you, Jim.
I'm familiar with the ordinance. In my opinion, drug treatment centers need to be placed in an area where they're not an intrusion into a community, and at the same time, the centers themselves are not intruded upon, given the activities that take place in those centers. I don't view drug treatment centers as a cottage industry for Cecil County. I don't view drug treatment centers as economic development. I don't think it's the type of economic development that this county needs or should want. I voted for the ordinance, yes I did, but at the same time it is not going to adversely impact anybody else. We didn't have any standards on the books, and if you looked at Channel 13 when they were calling us the candy store of Maryland, and look at the problem that Elkton has, and you look at the greater scope of where Cecil County sits with this problem, you either had to be proactive or just sit by and get overrun by it at the end of the day. And I don't think that anybody in this room wanted to get overrun. I know I didn't want to get overrun. And at the end of the day, we had to take action. And that's the way I feel about it.
Would anybody else like to comment on that?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
I have one very simple, plain position. One is enough. We have one, that's enough. But we got to have ordinances on the book that protect the county from that situation. And you know, for saying, well, we can't do that because we need, the word clinics is being used very freely here. The first thing that needs to be done is define clinic. I mean, you know, for instance, we could have people doing surgery in clinics out in the West Cecil area, for instance. Now, minor surgery is appropriate, but there's a place where you cut it. We have to have some medical people get involved in this to help us establish how the ordinance should be done. But we have one in Cecil County, which is attended by people all throughout the area, and I think one is enough.
Okay, just let me follow up real quick if I can, because I don't think either one of you answered the second part of the question. Do you think it could hurt other businesses? And Commissioner Hodge, maybe you did, but the medical community and the Planning Commission were not in support of this ordinance? And then my other question is I don't think either one of you mentioned the West Cecil Health Center. So when we mention clinics, there's a lot of different facilities that are involved, like Commissioner Hodge said. Because of this ordinance, and I feel that it was rushed, that the Cecil Health Center may not be able to open their doors now, and they got a federal grant, and if they don't meet the deadline, they have to give that grant money back. They have to pay back the money that was already given to them, and they will not be able, they'll have to basically shut their doors. So I guess my second question is because it does affect, it does affect other facilities.
West Cecil Health Center came to the county commissioners February last year and asked to be fast-tracked. Fast-track means that process is going to move fast. It took them 5 months to get one document to this building. Okay? They did not have a project manager for that property that they wanted to do with that grant. They didn't marry the architect, and they didn't marry the engineer for someone to take that through the process. I had a conference call with our county administrator and the gentleman that is the executive director at that facility with representatives from the Department of Public Works and the Office of Planning and Zoning. The Office of Planning and Zoning sent a letter in November and December to that gentleman. We never received a reply. They never sent any of the documents to the State Highway Administration to get the highway access permit. They also didn't secure the drainage easements that were necessary from the neighbor in order to handle the stormwater management that was going to drain down into State Highway. The Board of County Commissioners received a 4-page letter from State Highway with a list of conditions that needed to be met, and at this time the State Highway Administration is not going to review anything to do with that project until those 4 pages of issues are addressed. There was consistent lag time on the applicant's behalf. The Board of County Commissioners didn't have anything to do with that. The Director of Development Services of Cecil County explained to the Executive Director of West Cecil Health Center that when this fast track moved forward, you needed to be ready. And those documents were not produced fast enough. And right now, they're just sitting there, so they have to wind through the process. If West Cecil Health Center had hired someone to marry the architect and the engineer to take this process through, they'd probably have a spade in the ground out there by now.
Okay, Robert?
Jim has pointed out what the problem of government is all about. When he said that the State Highway Department has 4 pages of work that has to be done to put a driveway onto a state road. And here we are, the county commissioners are putting more barriers in front of a good opportunity for Cecil County. The West Cecil Health Center performs a very valuable service for all the western part of Cecil County. And we, the government, continue to add more and more pages of regulation for something good to happen. Now, I have to say about asking for a variance. Well, some people say, well, it's simple. Just fill out the form, write the check, hire an attorney, go through the public hearing process. It's just more regulations, more cost, more time, and more effort, and it comes back to every individual citizen of Cecil County. Either sooner or later, you're going to have to ask for that variance for something you want to do on your own property, or it's going to affect somebody else near you, and it's just driving me crazy, and it's drive you crazy too when we continue to add more and more regulation on top of regulation.
Thank you, Robert. We have Jacqueline, who has asked to place a question.
Hi, I'm Jackie Gregory. I wanted to follow up with a previous question on Carpenter's Point, and I want this to be answered by everyone. And in that situation, you had neighbors who had requested that a certain property, certain individual's property be downzoned. And I want to know if, when you're considering zoning decisions, if you believe that neighbors have standing when asking for a downzoning of a person's property, or do you believe that's a violation of their personal property rights in downzoning at the request of somebody else against their will?
Let's start this question with Garrett. You have it open then. Thank you.
Well, not to sound wishy-washy, but
And really, in the interest of time, let's try to keep it to a minute. I don't mean to butt in
okay.
the word.
Sorry. I think I would have to look at. I would probably give some more weight to the surrounding property owners. I would hope, though, that the property owner that wished for the downzoning would take into some account how it would affect their neighbors. And the way the whole thing worked out here, I guess in this case I would have to agree with the outcome, but it probably could have been done a little better.
For the downzoning, for it to come from the property owner, from what I have dealt with, it comes from the surrounding property owners. So I believe that it was done right, was put in the right perspective and was done right as to the adjoining property owners. I can't say that I would have done it their way, but I'm not going to condemn them for how they did do it. I can't do that. So I think they did it the best way that they could. With listening to Jim Mullins tonight and listening to his answer to the gentleman who asked the question, I think he did everything that he thought was right.
The property was zoned, I think it was heavy industry or heavy manufacturing. I believe at one time it was going to be a power plant. Now in reality they weren't going to put a power plant there in today's world. But if you look at consistency with zoning, the parcel right next door was zoned NAR with an MEB overlay. I was willing to offer a compromise to the applicant's representative and listening to the citizens. It had an MEB overlay over top of that NAR zoning. It still would have given them the ability to go to the Board of Appeals and the Planning Commission to apply for a special exception to do what they wanted to do on the property that was consistent with the property next door. It was a consistent land use. It was consistent. I was turned down on that. I was told I was kicking the can down the road and they weren't going to mine the property for 7 to 10 years. That was consistent with the property next door. Nobody in that area or citizens group came to me personally and said, you should do this and you should do that. I looked at the maps in the area and what it was zoned. And my decision was to make it consistent with the surrounding zoning around that parcel of land.
Right, Jim.
Yeah, I've reviewed minutes of meetings and so forth, and that was long before I thought about running for this position. But just in general with planning and zoning, I think to me that when this property was initially zoned under the comprehensive zoning map or done individually, this is why you need to have buffers. I mean, and I'm talking about, you know, trees and, you know, nice surroundings and so forth, that when you let residential go mixed in and around industrial, you're going to have these problems come up. You know, there's a lot of areas that have taken former sand and gravel areas and turned them into nice residential areas. I mean, it's just a different, you live on a different level. You know, instead of up here, you live down, you know, and run through the valleys and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I really think, you know, that, you know, the decision that was made, as I understood, was based upon the input from the public hearings. And, you know, I would have to agree that's the process to go by. That's who you represent, as the people of the community.
I think in the interest of time, I think I'm going to pull the I don't know card on this one.
I like to follow the law, and I like to follow the rules that we set up in advance. If I don't like the law, I don't like the rules, then I change them. In my opinion, the commissioners broke their own policy on this particular rezoning because we agreed in advance that we were not going to let third parties intervene and ask for the rezoning of a parcel of land that the owner did not apply to have rezoned. So we actually turned down quite a few requests, and there's a gentleman right here in the front row that asked for several that was all turned down because we decided in advance that we were not going to change the zoning on a parcel of land unless the owner gave their permission. We didn't do that. We went ahead and let the community change that zoning, even though the comprehensive plan clearly designated as mineral extraction. And we broke the law when we zoned that property for something other than what's in the comprehensive plan. And we're being sued for it, and we're paying taxpayer dollars to defend our decision, And we'll have to let the courts decide who ends up being right.
I'll tell you what, we have time for one very quick question here. One very quick question, and then we're going to do a closing. I have something else to announce here. Hang on.
Dwight Hare from Elkton, Maryland, retired military, small business leader here in Elkton. I got a couple questions. By the way, first of all, I have a tremendous amount of respect and appreciation for anyone that wants to run for this job. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of leadership, it takes a lot of dedication. My question to you is, do you have that kind of time and do you have that kind of leadership? I'm going to give you examples of what I'm talking about. When you're the senior leadership of the county, you got to be involved with the county. I'll give you a couple examples. Do you have the time to go to the Cecil County Commissioners meeting to meet and greet the people? For a long time, I always thought we only had 2 commissioners. Do you have, and I'm speaking now as a board member of Union Hospital, do you have the time to be involved with our hospital? Again, for a while now, I always thought we got 2 commissioners. But my main question is, if you're elected, which a lot of you will you be able to talk to your constituents? You know, somebody puts a note on your door, will you call it? Or somebody calls you, will you return his call? And my last thing is, and I just want this very briefly, I agree with Jim Krause. The next methadone clinic needs to be in Newark, Delaware.